Hello, this is Aram from the Armenian National Committee office here in Washington, D.C. It's a Wednesday morning and wanted to share with you a few updates about what's going on in the Senate and also wrap up with a couple of the legislative initiatives that you might find of interest. We're joined today by the ANCA's awesome IT director, S.Res.150. Nerses.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you so much, Nerses. So who's watching us this morning?
So basically we're multi-streaming today. So we're on Facebook Live, Twitter Live, and YouTube Live.
All at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay, so the same stream is reaching three audiences, and how's our reach been in these three platforms?
So basically, within the last 28 days, we have almost 3 million impressions reach on Twitter, okay, almost 1.2 million on Facebook, and overall 1 million channel views on YouTube, which is amazing.
Yeah. So are those records for us?
Yes, those are records actually.
Yeah. So a tribute to you who are watching right now, and to all the folks that you share these types of messages with. We're really making an impact. We have a community, of a couple million people, but it seems like we reach more people on Twitter this last 28 days than even there are Armenians in America, which means we're reaching a lot of other Armenians. There might be a couple Armenians not watching, shame on you, but a lot of Armenians are watching, and a lot of non-Armenians are watching. One metric that I was really excited about, Nerses, was there's this congress.gov, which is this website that everyone in DC visits pretty much every day. And it's the one place you can go to learn about what's going on in Washington, what's going on in Congress, what legislation is being considered, amended, defeated, all this kind of stuff. And over the last 30 days, during the week that ended November 3rd, which was the week that the resolution passed, it was the number 2 most viewed, most searched resolution in the world, right, on congress.gov. And then, Nerses and I were talking about that, and we're like, well, who's number 1? And we're like, who's number 1? We're like, why was there a resolution more important than the Armenian Genocide resolution? We looked it up. It turns out it was the Articles of Impeachment. So the constitutional crisis facing the nation outranked the Armenian Genocide resolution, but nothing else. We were number 2 most searchable. Now, to be fair, you may not visit congress.gov, and a lot of folks outside the Beltway of DC may not visit congress.gov, but everyone here does. And so we were very excited by that. And we owe that to Nerses and the great work he's doing.
Thank you.
He's just a wizard
when
it comes to...
Thank you all for taking action, and thank you all for supporting us.
Okay, thank you, Nerses. Okay, so a couple things. Where are we now with S.Res.150? We know that S.Res.296 passed the U.S. House on October 29th. We have a lot of momentum. There's been a lot of effort to see that repeated in the Senate. What that would do, let's go back. S.Res.296 put the U.S. House on record for all time, establishing ongoing, permanent U.S. remembrance and recognition of the Armenian Genocide, officially distancing, rejecting any association with the denial of this crime. So that, no more game playing. The U.S. House is over the idea of commodifying or bartering away the recognition of the Armenian Genocide. That's on the part of the House, and that's great. That's a standalone resolution. It is done for all time. The House is on record. The next piece of the puzzle is the U.S. Senate, and we're working with the U.S. Senate to get them on record, and actually are closer than we've been, frankly, since Bob Dole pushed the resolution back in 1990. So we're actually very close. We want to get that piece in place, and then eventually get the executive branch on the right side of the genocide issue. That's part of this chess game that's going on. Where do we stand in the Senate? Okay, there is S.Res.150. Exactly the same as the resolution that passed the House. And it's got about 27, 28 co-sponsors out of the 100 senators. That number's growing, and you can help make it grow by weighing in. And you can just look at the title of this video. It's anca.org/call. Just check out that video, that portal rather, and it'll take you directly to an action alert. But support is growing for the resolution. There's an effort to move it through the committee process, which we support entirely. We want to see Chairman Risch schedule a vote. We know that it will pass overwhelmingly if it does go to committee. But parallel to that, we support efforts by Senator Menendez to make a unanimous consent request. Okay, what does that mean? Senators are free whatever they want, to go to the Senate floor and say that I request unanimous consent to move this legislation forward, to get this done without any of the process that normally attends legislation, all the committee effort, the readings of the bill, things of that sort. So it's a unanimous consent request. He did that last week. One senator stood up and objected to that unanimous consent request, and that was Senator Graham of South Carolina. Very unfortunate. He had just met with Erdogan, and even in light of some very offensive comments that Erdogan made about Graham stood up and essentially carried Ankara's water by blocking the unanimous consent request. That doesn't mean it's blocked for all time. It means it was blocked for that one day. And senators, Democrat, Republican, can come back to the floor and request unanimous consent as often as they would like. And I think that eventually we'll see, right, that either the administration is going to grow tired of sort of covering for Turkey, or senators will grow tired of being asked by the Trump administration to cover for Turkey, and this resolution, this measure, this bipartisan effort may get fast-tracked to the floor, at which point, if no one opposes it, it passes essentially unanimously. And I think that's where we're heading on this issue. We need your help to get that done. One way to do this is to go to the URL, the website as the title of this alert. That'll allow you to send messages to make calls to your two senators. It'll be customized. If they're co-sponsors or not, it'll either offer a thank you or a request for help. That's one way you can help. Another way you can help, if let's say both your senators are already co-sponsors, like for example, if you live in California or Massachusetts or states like that, New Jersey. Another way to help is to go to the ANCA Facebook page, and on the cover photo there are 3 phone numbers, the 3 gatekeepers, the 3 senators who, if they allow a vote, we'll see a unanimous vote or a near unanimous vote. And those are, of course, Senate Majority Leader McConnell, Senate Foreign Relations Committee Chairman Risch, and Senator Graham. So absent any opposition from those 3, this resolution is a done deal. So that's very, very important. You can help with that. This morning, please do make your calls. If you haven't called yet, it's not too late. Call today, maybe call again tomorrow. Keep up the pressure. Encourage your friends to do the same. Now, I want to sort of wrap up the S.Res.150 thing by talking about another example that speaks to how things work in the Senate and how S.Res.150 can pass under this unanimous consent request process, this procedure, okay? So the Senate last night passed a very, very strong measure on Hong Kong, a measure that stands with the Democratic demonstrators, and a measure that was passed over the objections of the Chinese government and despite protests from the Trump administration. So you had a foreign government, in this case China, in our case Turkey, protesting. You had the administration raising objections, in both our cases, the Trump administration, right? And yet the Senate entertained a unanimous consent request. This is a resolution introduced by Marco Rubio from Florida, who's a co-sponsor of the Armenian Genocide Resolution, strongly supported by Bob Menendez, who was the author of the Armenian Genocide Resolution. So very, very same cast of characters. They push for it, and all sorts of experts and all these pundits and talking heads said, it'll never happen, China's against it, the administration's against it, there's too much opposition. And it's true, for a long time, these powerful interests opposed the Hong Kong resolution. They opposed it, until they didn't. And on the day they didn't, there was a unanimous consent request, it was unopposed, and the resolution passed the Senate. That is very similar to what may very well happen on the Armenian Genocide Resolution. People will say it's impossible, people will say it can't be done. They said the same thing about the House. In the end, they'll oppose it until they don't oppose it, and when they stop opposing it, even for 1 second, because we are pushing on that door 24/7. The second there's a crack, the door opens up and we're through, and we have the Senate on record on the Armenian Genocide Resolution and the Armenian Genocide, rejecting denial, establishing ongoing permanent remembrance, and that piece of the puzzle is done, and we move, the chess game moves on to checkmating the executive branch, and we move forward. So we're very close to that moment in the Senate. Is it a day from now, a week from now, a month from now? I don't know, but it'll only happen if we keep the pressure on. That's for sure. This is not something that happens of its own accord. It will happen because of the work that we do. The investment that we made in U.S. House relationships and grassroots activism resulted in 296. The same will be true in the Senate. It'll play itself out in a slightly different way, but the fundamental dynamics are the same. And the core dynamic at play is, are we going to do what we need to do? Is our community going to step up and make the calls, raise the profile, share the social media posts? Are we going to create such a tidal wave of grassroots activism that the answer has to be yes? And I'll say this, it's been a long fight, especially on the House side. It's a shorter timeline now on the Senate side, but I can tell you this, America is the place that can get things right. America is very often the place that gets things right. It takes us time, it takes a lot of effort, but we do the right thing, but only when Americans stand up, and we got to do that. So I'm giving you as heartfelt an appeal as I possibly can. Do weigh in today. Call your U.S. senators. If they're supporters, tell them to work hard to get a vote. If they're not supporters, tell them to co-sponsor the resolution. If you talk to McConnell, Risch, and Graham, tell them to give us a vote. Now, if they can't, in good conscience, vote for S.Res.150, I would profoundly disagree with their decision. But ultimately, those three individuals, if they have to, they can vote no. Let them vote no. We'll pass it 97-3. So we just need these guys basically to get out of the way, let the Senate work its will, let the majority, overwhelming bipartisan majority of the Senate express itself in an up or down vote on the Senate floor. So the Hong Kong example, I think, gives a very, very clear roadmap of what's possible if we keep the pressure on. Don't be discouraged. There's all sorts of cynicism and fatalism. If we listen to that, we would never have gotten through on the House side. If we listen to that, we'll never get our work done on the Senate side. Let me wrap up with a last item, which is that our good friends, Congresswoman Grace Meng and Gus Bilirakis, Democrat and Republican, Democrat from New York, Republican from Florida, are introducing legislation essentially to withdraw U.S. strategic resources or strategic assets, that's a code word for nuclear weapons, to withdraw U.S. nuclear weapons from the Incirlik Air Base in Turkey. As our understanding, the U.S. government has never admitted this, but there's roughly 50 nuclear weapons that have been stored there for decades. This legislation and its authors clearly think that that's no longer warranted. In fact, is a danger. The shortcut to Turkey becoming a nuclear power is one raid on that facility, and then in short order you have a new nuclear power controlled by a very reckless and anti-American Erdogan. So we obviously strongly support that legislation. We've supported that issue for many years. We want to see similar efforts made on the Senate side. The sooner we get those nuclear weapons out of Turkey, I think safer for the region, safer for Armenia, safer for the world. So we're big backers of that. With that, I'm going to encourage you one last time, weigh in with your senators today. It's absolutely essential that you do. Looking forward to staying in touch. Please share your comments, thoughts, criticisms, compliments, whatever, on our Facebook page, our Twitter account, on our YouTube channel, or write to us at anca@anca.org if you want to share some private thoughts, or if you want to weigh in with your senators and you want some advice about talking points or things of that sort, weigh in. We're here for you and look forward to working together. Thanks very much.
You stopped at that.